Good morning, everyone, and many thanks for tuning into our webinar this morning, and a very warm welcome to our speaker, RT7's Digital Commercial Director, Jack Cooper. So before I hand you over to our speaker today, I'll just go through some housekeeping with you. To enable you to hear the presentation clearly, everyone apart from the speaker have been placed on mute, and the event is being recorded. Following the presentation, there will be a Q&A session. To enable you to put a question forward, please hover your cursor towards the bottom of the screen and a toolbar will appear, which will include the Q&A option. Select this, type your question in the box provided, and then I will pose your question to Jack on your behalf. I will now hand you over to Jack, who will be providing you with information on how to launch your brand on Amazon. So thank you, Jack, over to you.
Great, thanks Nicola. Thank you everyone for joining. So Amazon 101. In terms of what I'm going to cover, we're just going to be looking at very much the basics around Amazon selling. Hopefully there'll be some take homes for those that have more knowledge on Amazon, but there should be some good content for everyone here. In terms of RT7Digital, for those that don't know, we're a full service Amazon specialist agency. We help brands both big and small to maximize their selling potential on the platform. Cool, so over the next 30 minutes, we're going to cover these key points here. I want to touch on some of the data around Amazon, reiterate the importance of Amazon. Also look at Seller Central versus Vendor Central. I'm going to run through the benefits of each, advantages and disadvantages. Also looking at search engine optimization on Amazon, and covering some key learnings there, best practices that we've learned over the years. I will briefly touch on the Amazon paid services, and in this section, I'm going to look at what's available in that space as well. And finally, following our previous webinar, there was a few questions posed by the beta members, so I'm going to be covering those off as well. Great, so just to start with, 66% of searches are now starting on Amazon, product searches. And all other platforms such as Google. So it's very important and an integral part of the e-commerce journey. Also reflected in global investment in Amazon advertising. We're seeing this rise year on year, and I'll be very interested to see over the last year when the real data is published, as we've seen a huge spike in this space due to COVID. Now, just a few more bits of data here that I think is very compelling. 79% of e-commerce sales are now including Amazon as part of that customer journey. 92% of shoppers who start their search on Amazon end up subsequently purchasing on the platform. Also, 50% of shoppers will discover new products at a retailer and subsequently make their purchase on Amazon. Now, finally, a new bit of data that I found from last year. Actually, November was the month of the whole year that had the highest number of visits on Amazon.co.uk, even higher than December, which I found very surprising, considering this would have been a higher revenue month. And I think there's some take homes we can get from this. 579 million visits on Amazon.co.uk alone in November 2020. And this speaks to me that I think during this month is a research phase. So for those that are looking at where they allocate their advertising budget in terms of top of the funnel awareness around their brand and product, I would say that November would be a good time to target potential customers who will subsequently come back in December and potentially make their purchase for the Christmas period. So going into Amazon Seller and Amazon Vendor. Seller Central is a third-party selling on the Amazon platform. So you sell via the marketplace, but you actually retain control over your brand and over your pricing. On the Vendor Central side, you will sell to Amazon at a fixed price that you negotiate in the initial agreement. It is an invite-only program. And then Amazon will sell your product on your behalf. And I'm going to be running through advantages and disadvantages of each. So just quickly, how do you identify a vendor? I'm sure everyone here will be familiar with an Amazon listing, and this is an example here. You can see below the Buy Now button, there is dispatched and sold by Amazon. Now, this means that there is a vendor selling. So wherever Amazon is selling the product, that is an Amazon vendor selling. Also, if you click through to the list of sellers, you can see that there are a number of different sellers on this, and this top highlight here shows an Amazon vendor. Also, just another example of where that might sit on an Amazon listing as well. Now, what you would see if there's not a vendor selling there is sold by a brand and fulfilled by Amazon. And this would be a seller selling, and I'm going to unpack that a little bit later. Also, within the list of sellers, you can see that where it highlights the specific brand who's selling, that is a Seller Central account. Now, when selling via Seller Central, there are two key options to fulfill your product to the end customer. You can either use Amazon's fulfillment network, and that can be identified from the front end of Amazon by saying sold by the brand here and fulfilled by Amazon. Or you can fulfill via your own network if you have capability, but unless you're using Seller Fulfilled Prime, which is potentially something to unpack in a future webinar, but feel free to research that yourself, is where you get the benefit of the Prime badge. FBA will give you the benefit of that Prime badge. So it is definitely an option to consider, especially for new brands wanting to launch on the platform. 60% of Amazon customers in the UK are on Prime. So it's a key area to note. Move that back. Okay, so some advantages of Vendor Central now. There's obviously the trust there, and this is a big point that's going to have a large impact on conversion rates of the Amazon listings. If the potential customers think they're buying it from Amazon, this has a sizable impact there. Also on Vendor Central, you have, this is A+ content, which comes below the fold on desktop, and you'll actually find it comes above the bullet points when on mobile. But you have more modules available. So you're able to produce richer, enhanced content. But over time, we're seeing the Seller Central side is sophisticating, and there's a lot more that you can do there. But you can also have paid modules, which you would have seen with certain brands, such as Samsung listings on Amazon, sometimes don't appear to be a normal listing. They're most likely paying for that content. Just to fly through quick fire here, a few more advantages of Vendor Central. Amazon will deal with all of the customer service. They will also deal with managing the inventory. They will send an order to you. For those that are vendors will know the timelines around that, and we're going to touch on that a bit later. Lower fees, you pay a fixed fee to, Amazon will pay you a fixed fee for the product, but they will take care of all the fulfillment. For those B2B brands that are set up and better, their business model is better suited to that environment, I would say vendor could be a better option to explore. Now, some disadvantages. You lose control of your pricing. And I think this is a really key one that we have in lots of conversations, is Amazon will buy off you at a fixed rate, and you can give them recommended price for them to sell at, but you cannot hold them to it. And this causes lots of issues, especially if you don't want your brand to be considered to be in a discount environment. And Amazon will discount your brand if they feel it is necessary in order to increase revenue. So this is a key disadvantage. Also, new product launches. Amazon choose what products they order from you. So I think this can be challenging for brands that are wanting to launch new products in order to get that visibility. There's some tactics we can employ, but I won't go into that at this stage. But it can be a challenge to launch new products when on vendor without building out any data that there is a demand for the product. All your customer data is hidden because Amazon is dealing directly with the customers. This can be very challenging as well. It's difficult to get that kind of demographic data unless you're fulfilling your own orders, but still an option to consider when on Seller Central. Managing your inventory as well. Amazon will give you very, very strict guidelines in terms of fulfilling their orders, and I know that they can penalize very heavily. So if you are engaging in a vendor agreement and in the negotiation phase, it is essential that all these things are considered, because once you sign that agreement, you're tied in for around a year normally, and it can be very strenuous for your business if it doesn't suit your capabilities. Cool, so just some advantages of Seller Central. You retain control of your pricing, and I think this is really key. As long as you don't have resellers on your listings, it's essential to be able to control your price for those brands that are wanting to have premium pricing, and it's a part of their brand identity to maintain a premium price on the channel. Seller Central is definitely a consideration there. Analytics as well. There's a brand analytics section. There's a tool such as Feedback Express that can link into Amazon to help you promote your so follow-up emails to help you get reviews. So you can actually send direct emails that links into Amazon, asking customers for reviews, direct links into your Amazon listings. So in terms of growing your listings, and reviews are very essential for successful Amazon listings, you have more options available here with Seller Central. A+ content as well. When you're on a listing, you'll see if it says product description, that means that it's a seller. And if it says from the manufacturer, it means it's a vendor. So that's another key area to tell whether the A+ content has come from which of the two selling options. Finally, as well, this has changed slightly due to Brexit, but it's still available. You can have pan-European fulfillment, which means you'd ship to one region in the EU, say France, for instance. We actually have a client that's doing this now. Ship to France, and Amazon will fulfill across the rest of Europe. So this is really key, having that control around which markets you're selling in that you'd have on Seller Central, while still benefiting from using their fulfillment network. Cool. Just a couple of disadvantages here. So managing your inventory, something to be aware of. This is a direct consumer environment, so you're going to need to ensure that if you're using Amazon's fulfillment, that they have the correct amount of stock. It has a very sizable impact on the performance of your product listing if you run out of stock. So it's very essential for ranking to always have stock in place. Also, you can have two fulfillment options. So the way to cover your listing is you use Amazon FBA. If that runs out of stock, you can then, it automatically shifts onto your own fulfillment from your own warehouse. This prevents you from ever running out of stock on your listing. In the interim, you'd be stocking up the Amazon fulfillment. Now, this is a really key one, is the customer service element. You have 24 hours to respond to any buyer messages. There's no holiday on this. This applies all of the weekend as well. So Saturday, Sunday, you're going to need, if you want to explore Seller Central, you're going to need a resource that is on all the time, able to pick that up. There's some best practices you can put in place where you have, like, say, an automated response, which then resets the timer. But these things need to be considered when looking at selling via Seller Central. Finally, the fees. So, Amazon will always try and take money where they can from having an open account, but also they will take a percentage on every sale. So without going into too much detail, you're looking at about 15% of your recommended retail price, including VAT, for the referral fee when on Seller Central. Now, other costs will be depending on how you fulfill your product. Great. So just moving on to the search engine optimization side, which is really key for driving conversion in Amazon's algorithm. So over the last year, there's been 200 million more Amazon listings launched globally across the channel. So I don't need to tell you about how the rate of which Amazon is growing and how many brands are looking to invest in this channel currently. But there's key areas that I'm going to just quickly unpack. Product titles, bullet points, images, back-end keywords. Really important to get these right when launching your Amazon listings. So recently, they brought in a rule that the title has to lead with the brand name and then the product variant, and following that, the keywords. Now, I'm just showing two examples here. So the top title, My Protein, and the second one is from Hayden, which is, they have a number of cookware products. So within this category, you can see you have 200 characters available. I'm just going to move this. Yeah, so you have 200 characters available in the title. This is one of the most highly indexed areas of Amazon, meaning that Amazon's algorithm is going to be scanning product titles to locate the listing, understand the listing, and then rank it accordingly for different search terms. So it's important that you use this space and have relevant keywords. I would say the title below is very much an optimized title, actually one of our own. And you can see here, well, we've actually identified that in the product images, the product can appear to be slightly redder than it would in person. And this kind of addressing these will not only prevent negative reviews, but also that is picking up certain keywords there, such as orange and red for that search term. So there's also benefits of ensuring that all of this key product information is there, and also from a ranking perspective. Bullet points as well. So I'm giving away all our secrets, but we're an open book. So the bullet points here is essential. Well, this is our best practice. This is some bullet points that we've written for one of our clients. It's key that it leads with caps. So I think that that's something we've implemented. If you put yourself in the shoes of a potential Amazon customer and you're scanning a listing in a competitive environment, you're going to be looking at what are the highlighting the USPs, so that you don't need to trawl through all of the information to know what's available. What you'll also find is we're using all of the allotted characters available here. And this is really important. Like, to go back to indexing and Amazon's algorithm, it's essential that you're using all the space provided, packed with relevant keywords, so your listing grows over time and ranks for the correct search terms. Finally, on the images side, images are essential. I know personally, when I'm an avid Amazon shopper, as I'm sure everyone else here is, but I will land on an Amazon listing and I'll be looking at the images and the reviews and the title. Probably 70% of my time, I'll make the decision on that alone. And then depending on the price of the product, I may look at the rest of the listing following that. Now, it's really important to get these right. So just to give you a bit of information around the requirements here. So it needs to be at least 1,000 pixels. We upload listings to 1,800. It's essential so you can get that zoomability on the Amazon listing. You may see on some listings that when you click on the image, you don't get that zoomability. This is going to be having a sizable impact on conversion. Excuse me. Also, image one must, so the first image on the listing must take up 85% of the image. The product must fill that space. It must be on a white background. These are Amazon's regulations. They brought that in about a year or so ago now. So really key when thinking about how you optimize your product listing. And you have 7 images available, so use them all. The amount of brands we see that only use 3 image slots, for instance. This is a real chance for you to showcase your brand, showcase your products, invest in high quality image assets, and that is going to carry your brand forward on the Amazon channel. Cool. Finally, on the keyword side, you have back-end keywords. So when you set up your listing, there's lots of keywords you can input into the back end of Amazon via Seller Central. And this is essential, well, vendor as well. You can actually, this is another highly indexed area of Amazon. So Amazon's algorithm will be scanning these to identify the product and know where to position it on the listings over time. Key metric, the amount of brands that we see that aren't doing this, aren't inputting keywords in the back end, is astounding, really, because this is all, you have to look at Amazon holistically, and this is a really key area to focus on. Just going to fly through here. Many don't know that Amazon stores exist, or they refer to the whole account as a store. This is an example of 2 Amazon stores. One of our clients, Eve Sleep, shows an example of a store here. This is a website within Amazon. This is available to brand registered sellers. And if you refer to the previous webinar that I did with Beta, we unpack exactly what that is and pre-launch considerations. But for sake of this, I think it's very important to note that this can be used as a designated landing page for paid traffic, increasing your average order value across your product ranges. Also used, it's a key feature for advertising, and you can gain analytics. It's almost a website within Amazon. So it's free to use if you're brand registered. So use it to drive your Amazon business. A+ content, I'm going to skip over this one. I think I've covered that off in detail before. Also free to use if you're brand registered. So it's worth investing in your assets and building that out as well. The A+ content is actually indexed as well. So when looking at Amazon's algorithm, it's another key area that Amazon's going to be looking for keywords in terms of how to position that product listing. Cool. So finally, we're just looking here at the paid services. There's 2 main positions in the advertising within Amazon: sponsored brand and sponsored product. There are a couple more that I'll touch on. This is you can see here, this is a search for toys. The sponsored product is where it says sponsored within the search results page, and the sponsored brand comes as a headline search ad there. That can link through to the store, which I just referred to. So in terms of a click-through, you would use a sponsored brand ad there. How does the advertising work? It's cost per click. So you pay per click. It's very similar to as would be for Google. The clicks tend to be much cheaper than you'd find on Google ads. So your advertising budget would need to be much less in terms of gathering that data on the channel. But for those that have experience in PPC, imagine, Google ads 10 years ago. That's sort of where Amazon is at the moment. So it should be, for those that have experience in that space, it should be relatively straightforward as long as you use data to back your campaigns. One thing to note is you must have the buy box, and this is really important. So the buy box is you can have multiple sellers on a listing, and who is benefiting from that sale when the customer adds to basket. And that's called the buy box. And if you don't have it on your product, so you don't have control of your supply chain and you've got resellers selling your product, this is something we see very commonly. If you're considering launching on Amazon, ensure that you have your supply chain managed and you take control of the channel. You don't have any other resellers, distributors, for instance, selling your products, because it can make it very difficult to manage your ads. And the only thing you can really guarantee is ownership of your content. So for those that understand targeting, there's 3 options available: broad, phrase, and exact match. And finally, brand registry, essential, really important. You need a trademark, a brand trademark. If you want a successful brand on Amazon, you need to, and don't have a trademark for your brand, get a trademark in place, supply that to Amazon, and you will register your brand with Amazon. And this unlocks all of the features that I have just ran through: A+ content store. All of these are only available once you have brand registry. Also, from sponsored brands, they can either land on the Amazon store, which I showed before, or a product list page here that you can see, which is just to show a reel of a few products that may be relevant to that ad that you're putting across there. Finally, product display. So this is where you can start to target your competitors. And I think it's really key. These are some of the locations here that you can target through product display ads. On an Amazon listing, you'll definitely recognize these locations here. These tend to be, there's benefits of using this advertising strategy. You can steal competitor traffic, so increase your market share, increasing brand awareness across your competitor listings, directly targeting competitor listings and advertising your products on those listings. And as they're less competitive, because there tends to be less brands that are bidding on specific listings, you'll find that actually it shows a better return and it requires less investment. So definitely important to be aware of product display ads and investing in that as an advertising strategy. Finally here, campaign management, strategic around key dates such as Prime Day, Amazon Black Friday. This is important to prepare for these. There's lightning deals running on Amazon. If you're already selling, ensure that you have everything in place. Start looking at these a few months prior. All the application processes start a few months prior. If you want to be featured on the lightning deals, you want to be featured on all of these pages, this needs to be considered and looked at with a lot of time in hand. Great. So I'm just going to have another sip of water, and then I'm going to go through these, finally, these questions that were asked following our previous webinar. So should I deal with Amazon directly? What would be some of the steep learnings for a novice? So I took this as being targeted towards Amazon Vendor Central. And I think a few of these notes I'll expand on now. Contract negotiations, I think I touched on this before, is so important. They're going to negotiate hard in the short term, but you're setting the precedent for the future relationship with Amazon. Once you agree those cost prices, it's very, very hard to push those up. So if you feel like it's better to go with a higher figure than a lower in that instance, especially if you're looking to explore vendor. Also take into account, you're going to need marketing contributions when launching on vendor. So make sure you're profitable with that taken into account. Maybe factor an extra 5%, 10% into your margin there. Also, moving on then, how do I protect my pricing? What are key considerations when it comes to pricing? So Seller Central, you can control your pricing, as I've already been through there. Via Vendor Central, you can recommend a price, which they may stick to, but if they're not selling the level of stock that they would like to, Amazon will discount in order to shift that through their warehouse. So something to really be hot on is that side there. Supply chain management, removing resellers. This is essential. I would say off the bat needs to be looked at. Do you have control over your supply chain? Do you have lots of resellers? We actually have a brand called RT7, which we have clauses in our reseller agreements where we don't allow them to sell on any third-party platforms other than their own, so online marketplaces. And this prevents them selling on Amazon. So we took control of the channel, and we're recommending that any brands that are wanting to really utilize Amazon need to put that in place. Also consider how your competitors are priced. And you can, another thing here that we're seeing commonly is Amazon is now looking at all marketplaces online to compare the prices of the products they have offered by brands compared to, say, eBay, Etsy. A common strategy we're seeing is brands putting a higher price on Amazon because they take margin from them higher than they would, say, on eBay. Amazon will remove the buy box from you in this instance now. They're clamping down on this. You have to have, if you're finding you don't have the buy box, this is a common issue we're seeing more and more now. Ensure your pricing is matched across all sites. And I'm 90% sure that will sort out all of the issues there. Unfortunately, it's the Amazon policy and it needs to be adhered to. I currently only sell direct to retailers. What dynamics or challenges should I be aware of if I decided to also sell on Amazon? What are the typical conflicts and how to avoid? So, and this kind of goes back to a previous point, but typical conflict is competing for the buy box. And I think that's the issue. Amazon will not remove resellers unless they're selling counterfeit products. So it's really important here that you have control of your supply chain. Also important to get ownership of your brand. So through brand registry, you can get full ownership over your content as well. So you need to submit that. It's a battle that you'd fight with Amazon there. And now, how do you protect your brand on Amazon? Brand registry that I touched on before is essential for ownership over all content. That will guarantee you ownership over all of the content in your listings, even if you're not the only seller there. So essential for getting that across. Also through the advertising piece, brand defense campaigns, you can do this via sponsored products, sponsored brands, ensure you're bidding on your own brand keywords. And finally, the transparency program. Now, for those that don't know about this, have a search of it online. There's lots to read up there. Transparency Amazon introduced to stop counterfeit products being sold. You'll get unique barcodes on those listings, on those products that you'll need to apply so they can automatically be scanned to remove resellers. And I think this is really key. It does take a whole business change decision though. So definitely something to look at in more depth first. And I'm happy to pick up a conversation with anyone around this later, should they be interested. Finally, on these final 3 questions, I think I've actually answered those already. So if you feel that they haven't been, then please pop a message in the Q&A here. But I think that just about rounds things off. And I'll hand over back to Nicola.
Thank you, Jack. Wow, that was packed full of information. Don't worry if you couldn't keep up with that, because I'll be sharing Jack's presentation and a recording of the video with you all later today. So we'll go to Q&As, but while Q&As are going on, I'll be launching a poll just to ask if there are any topics which Jack covered today that you'd like more information on, that you'd like Jack to expand further in another webinar. So please do take part. It's all anonymous. I don't know who's saying what. It's just to give us some guidance for future webinars with RT7Digital and tapping into that wealth of information that they have. So Jack, we'll go to, the questions are flooding in, as you can imagine. First question, are these stats being presented at the beginning of your presentation? Were they referring to Amazon in the UK, EU, or the rest of the world?
So the specific one that I mentioned around the UK, that was targeted at UK. The rest is rest of the world.
Jack, you've gone a little bit Dalek-y on us. Just with that, I don't know. It might click out. Still a little bit like a Dalek, yeah.
So I jumped out and back in.
Okay. Okay, so I've launched the poll now. Just which of the following topics? How important is Amazon? Comparing with Walmart, Etsy, that kind of thing. The importance of brand registry, Seller Central versus Vendor Central, third-party tools and software, Amazon advertising, and Amazon SEO. If there are any other subjects that aren't covered in that poll, when I send the details out to you, just just come back to me with any other suggestions that you may have. Like I say, this will help us guide us in any future webinars that we
Is
do.
that better now?
That's better. You're back with us. Thank you,
Great.
Jack.
No worries.
So another question. I have a question about the brand registry. We are a brand registered agent. However, our products do not sell anymore since this brand registry. We are vendor. Our products are well registered. We don't know how this could be. Do you have any experience with this?
So when you launched a vendor central account, I think it was about 4 years prior to the last 3 years. So say from around 2018, but before 2018 is what I'm trying to say. You would have automatically been allocated brand registry. So what we often find is there's distributors that have launched multiple brands via their vendor central account and have received brand registry for all of those brands. If I'm understanding the question correctly, that may be relevant. If not, then I apologize. But if you want to gain back control of your brand registry, you need to submit your trademark information to Amazon, and you can. It may be a bit of a battle, and it can take some time if it's already associated with a vendor. But it's definitely possible, and we've been successful with previous clients.
Okay, thank you, Jack. Thank you. What all key points to keep in mind and follow to get Amazon Choice badge?
Amazon Choice is allocated all around the SEO side, so the search engine optimization. Amazon Choice is not related. So there's two badges. You've got Amazon Choice and you've got bestseller. Amazon Choice is only related to keyword relevancy. So I would say for those that are trying to get Amazon Choice for a specific keyword, ensure that the content on the listing is packed with that keyword, and the sales that are generated via that keyword will grant you the Amazon Choice over time. So the most relevant keyword search term to that product. So my answer to that would be the best practice is to ensure all aspects of your Amazon listing are fully optimized, especially the back end on Seller Central or vendor.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jack. We have brand registry, but 3PS still have the ability to change our images and content. When requesting to change it back, it's a challenge with Amazon. How do we stop this?
I wish I could speak to them. So if you haven't logged, so you've got two customer support teams. One is via brand registry and one is via Seller Central. So what you can actually do is if you log into your brand registry, any content issues, log it via brand registry support. If you've done that already, then I need you to just pop me an email and we can run through different things. But that would be my first port of call in answer to that question.
Thank you, Jack. And yeah, please contact Jack. He's exceptionally helpful and very open with his answers as well. So yeah, please do contact Jack directly. And how easy is it to move from Vendor Central to Seller?
I wouldn't say it's easy. I wouldn't, but it's something we've managed for some of our clients before. We have knowledge of that process and what that looks like. I think the first thing to do is consider when your contract with Amazon comes up for renewal, that will need to be terminated. You then, in order to ensure a smooth transition to Seller Central, you'll need to have that account set up. Also, you don't want to run out of stock. So ensure there's an overlap period of time when you switch the listings across. There's quite a lot of detail to go into there. I think in short, it's possible to be managed in quite an effortless way, but you need to speak to people that have done it before to ensure that those common pitfalls are avoided. And yet again, more than happy to unpack that following this.
Wonderful, thank you. We are already listed on Amazon as a brand, as our customers are reselling our products. The listings can be really poor with wrong descriptions, etc., and also look like they are ours as our brand has been allocated against them. How can we take control of our listings without actually selling to Amazon?
Yeah, so you can set up a Seller Central account. You can add all the products in question in. You don't actually really have to stock the items. So what you need to do is add all of the relevant, so it'll be your SKU, your barcode, that will relate it to that, it will attach it to that ASIN that already exists. And then what you do is you register your brand, as I touched on before, enroll in the brand registry process, and then you can submit content and override all the content on those listings without actually having to sell the products. yeah, again, something we can help with if you would like.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm just going to ask a couple more questions. Any questions that we haven't been able to get to? Jack's very kindly said that he will answer after the webinar, so I'll forward them on to him and then broadcast all of the answers when they come back. So another question, can you run as a vendor and a seller from the same platform?
I mean, you can have both vendor and seller accounts open, but they're different platforms in themselves. The advertising has actually all been pulled into one platform. They're not separate anymore. So that's something to also consider. But yes, I mean, you'd find if you're listing the same product on vendor and seller, you might be in a scenario where Amazon discounts the price to ensure they get the buy box. So it's just be careful that you're not sort of bidding against yourself and driving your own prices down.
Mm-hmm. Okay, brilliant, thank you. And one last question, can we use VC UK to link with the EU channels?
Yeah, so there's actually Vendor Central Europe, which has come onto my radar quite recently, which I believe still covers UK and EU. As of May, there was speaking to a prospect who had that put in place as of May last year. So definitely something to explore. Vendor Central Europe as an account can cover that. My recommendation would be if you have a vendor account, speak to your account manager and discuss that with them. And I'm sure your Amazon account manager will be able to assist.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jack. Like I say, any outstanding questions, and we have many, Jack, any outstanding questions, I'll forward to Jack afterwards and we'll get the answers out to you. Thank you all for taking part in the poll as well. Great response to that. So we'll definitely look into doing some more webinars with Jack. We have got another webinar coming up with Jack in a few weeks' time, which will be covering more experienced Amazon seller, but we'll send more details of that out to you shortly. So thank you, Jack. Thank you for a fantastic webinar again. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Our next webinar is taking place on the 23rd of February, when the Bank of England and CBI will be joining us to provide economic and business updates. More details of all our forthcoming webinars, including Jack's, can be found on our events page of our beta website. So I hope to see you all soon, but in the meantime, please keep safe and well. Thank you.